Let's get to our great senator. No holds barred. We love him. Strong on liberty, strong on our religious freedom, strong on life. I saw him at the big Right to Life Celebration of Life event. Our Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Cruz, welcome back to the show.
Sam, always good to be with you.
How you doing? We haven't chatted since the self-quarantine. First of all, what was that like, and how you feeling now?
I'm doing terrific.
Good.
I am at home, working from home, like everybody else. Heidi is working from home. Our girls are doing school at home, so we're all together in the house in different rooms. And the self-quarantine, it was almost a month ago. It's amazing how time flies. I spent 11 days in self-quarantine right at the outset of this crisis, and then went back to D.C., was in D.C. with the Senate to pass this big relief bill last week, and then flew back to Texas, and I'm back home here working from home. But I am strong and healthy and feeling good, and working hard for all of us to get through these crazy times and this crisis we're facing.
Ain't that the truth? Senator Ted Cruz with us. When my wife and I we do our walks. The virus has certainly brought a lot of families together, because when we walk, we see moms and dads and kids, and they got bike helmets, or they're skating, or they're playing basketball. Or
Yep.
It's, you know what? And amongst the horrible news that's going on, families are back together, talking, eating dinner together. And we're not running in 10 directions for baseball practice or volleyball practice or, whatever. We're home, Senator.
Sam, I've got to say that point is really, really important. Listen, this crisis has produced a lot of suffering and death. It's killed millions of jobs, but it has also brought families together in a way that is truly extraordinary. And every night I have thanked God for the gift of the time with all of us in one place. Every day this week, Heidi and I and the girls, we've had lunch together and dinner together. Do you know, in the entire lives of my daughters, we've never had an extended period where we have lunch and dinner together every day. I mean, it is transformational. We're doing the exact same thing every evening. We go for a walk, and sometimes it's Heidi and me. Sometimes we try to bring the girls. That doesn't always work because they're 9 and 11. But when we can get them out there, we all go out walking, and I've never seen anything like it. Everybody is taking a walk. And everyone stays 6 feet apart. They all social distance. But if there's nothing else to do, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a movie, the only thing you can do is go walk, and the weather's been spectacular. But it's, we live in central Houston, and it's turned into Mayberry. I mean, it's just, the neighbors are there, the dogs are there, and it's a wonderful thing within all of this pain and suffering. The families that are spending time together, I mean, that is, in no other circumstance would you be given that gift and forced to have that gift.
Right.
Of spending real, concerted, extended time with your kids, and that's an amazing thing.
Amen to that. Senator Ted Cruz from the great state of Texas. We praised you a little while ago. We were playing a sound clip where you're not afraid to peel the onion on the origin of the Wuhan virus. Was it a weapon? Did it somehow get out? We know that the communists have not been honest. Even Bloomberg, no friend of Trump, no friend of conservatives, even the Bloomberg News folks today or yesterday said that the communists in China were not honest. We don't have real numbers. We don't even know what happened. And we appreciate you being tip of the spear on that.
Well, it's deeply, deeply concerning. Obviously, this pandemic originated in China, in Wuhan. And it is, we know several things. Number one, we know that the Communist Chinese government lies. They have a long pattern of lying. They have a long pattern of murder and torture and oppression of their own citizens. And when this outbreak began, they did everything they could to cover it up, to keep it silent, to let nobody know. They punished the whistleblowers who tried to point out that this outbreak was beginning. And if we'd been able to step in early and find the early cases and isolate them, it could have stopped this outbreak worldwide. But China didn't do that. Instead, they covered it up, and they continue to cover it up. And it is more than a little striking that where this outbreak occurred is just miles away from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is a P4, a top-level infectious disease facility that studies infectious diseases. There are only about 32 of them on planet Earth. And think about it, of all the cities, of all the towns in the world, for this outbreak to occur in one of the 32 cities that actually has a lab studying these highly infectious diseases, those odds are staggering. Not only that, at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, we know they were studying coronaviruses. In particular, that was one of the areas they were studying, and they were studying coronaviruses from bats. All of that is public record. It's also public record that others in the public health space have expressed serious concerns about the safety protocols at the Wuhan Institute.
And
that they were not as effective as they should be. And so, look, there's no indication. I've asked the scientists. One question naturally occurs is well, was this manufactured? Was this designed to be a weapon? And what the CDC scientists have told me multiple times is the answer to that appears to be no, that it does not have the biological markers, that the way the genome is sequenced, it appears to have occurred in nature rather than something made in a lab. And I'm not a scientist, so but I'll take their judgment on that. But what the media seems really terrified to ask is the obvious question: not did they make it at that lab, but if they're collecting and studying dangerous viruses from all over the world, were they studying it at that lab? And did somebody screw up? Did somebody mistakenly get themselves infected, get an animal infected, get something infected where the virus escaped the lab and was inadvertently introduced into the population, which led to the outbreak? I mean, that is a natural question. The communist government of China doesn't want anyone answering it, and they're going to stonewall to the end of eternity. But our mainstream media, our supposedly intrepid journalists, not a one of them wants to ask that question. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, NBC, CBS, none of them want to ask that question. And, Sam, it ain't complicated why. All of the networks, you look at the network bosses, you look at the suits, they make money in China. They want access to the Chinese market.
Amen.
And
Amen.
The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. Do you know how many billions of dollars the Chinese market means to Jeff Bezos? In what universe are they going to be willing to piss off the Chinese overlords over there? And I got to say, it is corrupt. Now, our first priority has to be stop this pandemic now, here, today. That's where we need to focus. But there needs to be a serious inquiry to discover what the heck happened and why it happened, how this outbreak occurred, and the communist government in China does not want anyone to know the answer to that.
Amen to that. Tell them like it is. Our Senator Ted Cruz. And finally, real quick, when Speaker Pelosi tried to push through a lot of falderall in the last stimulus action, it was, and thankfully, other than like the Kennedy Center, which I really have, I don't know why they're getting money. Will there be another round? Because this is what she wanted already. She's like, oh, there's going to be another round. We're putting together another $1 or $2 trillion package. Senator Cruz, what's your take on that?
It depends. It depends on how long this crisis lasts. Listen, we just passed a $2 trillion emergency relief bill. $2 trillion, even in government terms, is a massive amount of money. And I think we need to give it a little bit of time to see what the effect of that relief plan is. That being said, if we get to the end of April and the cases in the U.S. have continued to grow dramatically, the deaths have grown dramatically, and we've got millions or tens of millions out of work, I think it's likely you'll see Congress go back and look at new emergency measures. But I think we should give time to see the impact of this last provision. And I'll say this last provision has critical elements, including checks to individuals all across Houston, all across America. If you earn $100,000 or less, you're going to get a check for $1,200, and you're going to get a check for $500 for every child. That's real relief for families who are hurting. And on top of that, for small businesses, there's $377 billion in emergency loan relief for small businesses, for restaurants and bars and nail salons and hardware stores and movie theaters where a small business can go. It's administered through the Small Business Administration and through your local and community banks. And so if you're a small business owner, you can go to the same bank you usually use, go to your community bank, and you can apply for a guaranteed loan that is forgivable. This is the critical piece. It is forgivable if you use those loan proceeds for salary and payroll, or for rent and mortgage on your business, or for utilities. Then it is completely 100% forgivable, the amount you use for those purposes. That's designed to get as many people back to work. That's entirely about jobs. It's designed for everyone who's been laid off. We had 3.5 million people laid off last week. The projections this week is it could be 4 to 5 million people laid off this week. That's a whole lot of people who've lost their jobs. On the small business side, that's designed to get people back in their jobs, back in their paychecks, so they can provide for their families while we get through this crisis and while we work to beat this pandemic.
Amazing. It's going to be busy. Listen, I know you're super busy. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Thanks for telling the truth, and thanks for being a great stand-up guy for religious freedom and being pro-life.
Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you for standing up and speaking out every day. And let me tell you, we will make it through this. Texas is strong and America's strong. We're going to make it through this.
Heck yes. Our great Senator Ted Cruz. Have a blessed day, sir.
And you as well.
Will do.